This live stream brought to you by the Excelsior Citizen and these generous sponsors. Our Excelsior Springs Hospital, where better care is right in your backyard. The Simmons Sales Team, your hometown realtors.
Whether we're talking about our dedication to preventing and restoring power outages, our pursuit of safety, or providing the best member experience possible, we are relentless in serving our communities.
Find out how you can advertise with Excelsior Springs' #1 community resource. Visit ExcelsiorCitizen.com today.
So it is 4 o'clock, and our commitment is that we will start at 4 and we will be done by 5. Obviously willing to stay and talk to whomever needs to stay later, but I don't think that it's going to take that long. My name is Melinda Mahaffey. I'm the Community Development Director and the Economic Development Director for the city. And so we called the listening session today because we wanted to talk about Wyman. Some of you live right by it. Others are interested in what's going to happen with it. On the top there you see the figure of Wyman, and it still shows the former heating plant building, which we have since torn down, but we'll talk a little bit about that. Wyman was acquired by the city in April of 2017, and the reason that we acquired it was we wanted to stop some of the vandalism that was happening, and we wanted to start talking about how the building could be reused instead of just leaving it in its current state. And while it's been a number of years, we've been working on it for quite some time. Our goal is to see a reuse of the building, simply for the reason that we pay to mow it and we pay to board it up every time it gets broken into, and that's costly. So we would like to see it reused. But we spent some time after we purchased it. We've had to clean up some title work on the property, and then we did something called, we did a bunch of environmental work, and that's why we're really here today. Is we have acquired a State Environmental Improvement and Energy Resource Authority grant, and you will hear us oftentimes refer to it as the EIERA grant, and you'll smile every time you say it because you can't get that out of your head. But we've started down a road of looking at what we need to do to the property to take better care of it. And so in 2021, we went to DNR and we got a Phase 1 environmental study grant. And those grants, when we receive them, are 100% grants. So we aren't paying anything for this. It's all done with state money. And the purpose of the Phase 1 environmental study grant was really just to identify potential liabilities and concerns associated with the property, specifically lead-based paint and asbestos. And then they do that by reviewing historic records. They look at site inspections. They do interviews. We fill out paperwork on that. And then if they determine that there is a reason they need to do more, they will suggest to us that we need a Phase 2 environmental. And they did do that on this building. We have done Phase 1 and Phase 2 environmental studies on a number of buildings in our community, just because we need to know what we have in front of us to work on. But we did the Phase 1 in 2021. And then in 2022, we did the Phase 2 environmental. And that's a much more detailed investigation. And then it's actual, they're in the building for 2 or 3 days. They're doing core samplings. They're taking scrapings. They're identifying asbestos. And they are assessing the extent of the contamination in the building, and then developing a plan for remediation and cleanup. And then when you're going through this process, one of the things that the EPA, DNR all tells us that we need to do is we have to have something called an ABCA, which is an analysis of brownfield cleanup alternatives. And so that particular process is, it's a process where we bring environmental consultants on site, and they spend a number of days there looking at the site, actually measuring how much asbestos cleanup needs to that needs to happen, and they've been and then they provide us with a report, and that ABCA report actually shows us what some anticipated costs are. And so if you follow anything on Facebook, you may have heard people say, well, just tear the building down, and you may hear other people say, no, it needs to be reused. We have not come to a final determination of what has to or needs to happen there, but we have had a listening session with some of our neighbors in the past, and I'm not sure if any of you have attended that. We had a proposal from a developer who wanted to put 13 duplexes on the back of the property and have a much greater density there. And we listened to what the neighbors said, and what we heard neighbors say is, we don't want a lot more density there. We understand that there's a reuse potentially for this building, but it's not to add another 60-unit apartment complex on the site in addition to the building. In part because there is a concern over the transportation piece of the, your roadways up there. And so we're very sensitive to that, and we keep that in mind when we talk to developers who have expressed interest. And we've had people call us and say, I think I'm going to move my family in there and I want to live in there. We've had people who have said, I want to run a car dealership out of there and sell used cars. And somebody else was going to try and figure out how to park all of their personal car collection in the building. And so we've had a number of requests for the building, and every time the city has property and somebody wants to acquire that property from them, we don't typically sell property. We look at what the property benefit is to the community with the use that you're going to have. So what is the use for the community that is the best possible use? And that really is how we come upon making some of our decisions. And our council makes those decisions, and we have a number of them here today. We have Mayor Spahn, Mayor Pro Tem Spears, Councilwoman Morgan, Councilmember Reggie St. John, and I think that's 4 of the 5. So you've got some individuals here who are willing to listen as well. In 2022, we tore down the heating plant. We called it the power plant. And we tore that down because we became very concerned about the tower and the collapse, the potential collapse of that, potentially onto a house or even worse, onto an individual. And so with that in mind, we went ahead and tore that down. We abated it and tore it down in 2022. That helps to clean the site up. We have boarded up the building. Some of you call to let us know when it's been broke open again, and we go back and we board it up again. Our commitment is to try and keep people out of it, in part because it's a danger to be in it, particularly in the dark. There happens to be a hole in one of the floors up on the 2nd floor that if you weren't familiar with the building, you might end up back on the 1st floor inadvertently, and that's a danger. And so we don't want people in a building where they may get hurt. And so we have boarded it up, and to be quite frank, we have pressed charges when people do break into it. So, our commitment is to keep people safe, and if that's what we need to do to make that happen, then we're gonna do that. The building itself is very sound, and when you walk in the building, there's a lot of history in that building that people still talk about. And the old school chalkboards are still there. The windows are amazing, but all of that is stuff that has to be taken into consideration when we do a renovation on the property. And so we applied for we talk to DNR and EPA a lot, only because we are constantly asking for assistance. And as your city staff, we feel it's our responsibility to find money to use other people's money when it comes time to do projects. Because we don't have enough money to do all of these projects by ourselves without assistance. And DNR has been a great friend of ours in that we have never paid for a phase 1, a phase 2, or an APCA report. And I will tell you the APCA report's over $3,000. And when we approach them, you have to have the APCA done. When we approached them and said, here's the situation with a couple of the buildings in our community. And Wyman is one that we're really interested in seeing some changes on. And they had a fund, the State Environmental Improvement and Energy Resource Authority had the state EIERA grant, and that grant was being phased out. They had about $500,000 left in the grant, and they really just wanted to close the grant out, and to do that they needed to expend those dollars. I lobbied for all $500,000. They said no, and instead they are sharing that grant between the city of Boonville on a project over in Boonville and our community. And so they have allocated $250,000, which is really what they believe the cost will be to abate the building of lead-based paint and of asbestos. So the cleanup is when you get into this grant fund, you have to agree to do the cleanup in its entirety. And so we're working with consultants. Our city council has just approved Terracon consultants to work with us on this grant and help us complete this process. So those of you that live in the neighborhood, over the next 2 years, you will see people coming and going and work going on in the building. That is how long that DNR has told us this grant will take to complete. I was hoping we were going to have it done by summer, but they assured me that it was going to take far more time than that. And as we work through that process, we have a requirement that we keep the community apprised of what we're doing. So you'll be seeing us talk about it. We'll talk about it on our city's website, and we'll talk about it on our Facebook page. So you'll be able to find information there. We'll let our media representatives know what's going on. You know, the building there's 13,000 square feet of asbestos. And it's all in those little mastic tiles that we all walked down, you know, when you walked into the cafeteria or when you were in the theater area. Lead-based paint. There's lead-based paint on window frames, the lower 4-foot section of most of the walls, in more than 28 rooms actually. Vertical water pipes have asbestos or lead-based paint, and then bathroom stall doors and walls have lead-based paint. Door frames have lead-based paint, and there is a strong potential possibility that the fire escape has lead-based paint on it. That red paint is typical of is indicative of lead-based paint. So we will be working with Terracon on that, and that's one of the things that we'll be doing. I'll show you if this will work all the way over here. Nope. Sorry, Jason. Well, I need to do it because I'll show you, if you look on the screen, some of the photos of the building. So what you're seeing here is the first floor plan, the floor plan of the first floor, second floor, and third floor. And everywhere that you see the red is lead-based paint on the lower portion of the wall. And so you'll start to see that as we go through here. When you look at the blue, that's lead-based paint on the windows. The water pipe is identified right here in one of the rooms. Again, nearly all windows are lead-based paint. And the assumption, while I tell you that there is 28 rooms with lead-based paint, in some areas where they could not reach a wall or they could not uncover a window to test it or test it from the outside because of its height from the ground, In those cases, there's a presumption of lead-based paint as well, but it's not included in any of the reports. So it doesn't look horrible when you look at those pictures. Here's some of the pictures of the building itself. So this is the mastic tile that, the floor tile with the mastic, where they believe there is where it has tested positive for asbestos. This will kind of show you the condition inside the building, so you won't need to go in it. You know, again, mastic tile and tile. The wall board on the second and third floors, they had tested it for and analyzed it for asbestos. You can just start to see some of this is a water tank, an overhead water tank. So they've tested it. And so I will tell you that when developers walk through the building, they give us hope because they say it's not as bad as some of the buildings they've been in. This is actually the power plant. You can see why we tore it down. We've lost the structure of the roof here, which gave some of the support, and so that was one of the reasons for the decision to tear that down. And you can see that there's been a lot of vandalism and destruction. This type of paint, when you see it, is an indicator of lead-based paint. When you see the paint cracking like this or peeling like this. You can see the vandalism that's taken place. We do try to keep people out of it now. The bathroom stalls, and schools have lots of bathroom stalls, all of those test positive for lead-based paint. So this kind of gives you an idea of some of the damage even that's been done to the building. Our goal would be to see that stop, and we hope it has at least reduced. There's at least one stairwell in the school that was destroyed when a previous owner took out radiators. They just threw them down the stairwell, and it was a concrete stairwell, so it destroyed the stairwell, so it's not safe either in the dark. It's not safe in the daylight. I scanned past the writing pretty quickly, sorry about that. And then this is the red paint that they say that they're concerned with. So they've given us, 13,000 square feet of tile and mastic to be removed. So the process is we'll go out to bid on how to. We'll go out to bid with Terracon sending out the bid to companies that can come in and do the cleanup. And that cleanup will take a little bit of time, but they will be removing it from the site so that you won't actually see it at the site anymore. And some individuals have said, well, tear the building down. I mean, but whether you tear the building down or you reuse the building, either way, you must do this. And so using $250,000 of somebody else's money to do this is the best way that we felt we should do this. And it's one of the reasons that we are working on it right now. We will, you have a few options. One is leave it as it is and never use the building. That's not fair to the neighbors, and it's not fair to the community. The second option is to abate it entirely, which in some cases means you're tearing out all of those windows and putting in all new windows, or encapsulating it. And so we'll be working with Terracon to determine what the best use is for each one of those processes and identifying how we will do that. As neighbors, if you have questions, we encourage you to call community development. I'm more than happy to talk with anybody and update you on what we're doing. Our goal is for you not to be surprised and for you to know that we're moving forward with trying to do something. The other thing that is important to us is to know your eyes that I don't drive by that site every day, your eyes that can help us know when something's going on there that shouldn't be happening there. Our goal is always to keep people safe, but one of the most important things that we need to know is if the building is being entered into, we need to know that because it is not safe currently to be in the building. And unfortunately, some of the biggest issues we have is just individuals that are coming in because they've heard it's haunted, they've heard that it's a dare, or they've come from another nearby community and they're just wanting to vandalize something. That's not fair to our taxpayers, and so we do actually resolve to get that fixed. And if you see it happening and it's of an evening, we just ask that you just go ahead and call 911 and police officers will respond to the site. But more importantly, if you see that there's something we need to be doing, like a tree needs to come down or a tree needs to be trimmed, please let us know that. I know that one of you in the room probably has called us before and talked to us about doing a better job of mowing, and so we're attempting to do a better job of that. So there are things that we need to do to be good neighbors as well. But at this time, I just really want to open it up and ask if you have any questions, if you have any comments, or if you have anything you'd like us to be working on up there that we're not aware of. Yes, sir.
I was surprised that in the asbestos removal, it sounds like it's limited to tile. I thought that with the plant, seeing all of the steam radiators, that there would have been a lot of asbestos wrapped pipes, and you didn't indicate that that was part of asbestos problem.
They did not indicate that in the report. Now, when we go back in, we'll look at that all over again. Many of the radiators were pulled out.
True.
And because a school was operated there until the mid-1990s, the school may have done some of that remediation, and we may not know it.
Okay.
And so but their asbestos is not, I'm like you, I thought it was going to be a significant amount, and it wasn't in their reports. Other questions, comments? Yes, ma'am.
The concern about the retaining walls, like when you're walking down the sidewalks, the bricks are falling out, there's all kind of damage, like the railing.
Are you talking about on Dunbar?
Dunbar and on Henry.
So we had gone after and attempted to get a grant that would allow us to replace Henry Hill Bridge because it desperately needs it. And at the same time that we were doing that, we were looking at taking down those retaining walls and working on those. We're still trying to identify, we didn't get the grant, we're still trying to identify a new source of revenue or a new grant that will help us to do that. Because we do notice that that retaining wall is a significant issue. We just have to identify a funding source for it. We are working on it though. Not fast enough.
Also, in the past, me and a previous neighbor used to call when vandals would be breaking in and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we were told to stop calling.
I'm sorry, you were told what?
To stop calling.
Oh, well, I'll have that conversation. We don't want you to stop calling because
Job Corps was breaking in, nightly.
Mm-hmm.
And we were calling and they were like, no, stop calling.
I have gotten out of bed at 11:30 at night and come down to the police department to sign the complaint so that we can press charges. So please know that that is not the case now. I am more than happy to, I live here in town, I'm more than happy to come in whenever I'm needed to make sure that we are resolving the issue. And quite frankly, as we start pressing those charges, that word gets around fairly quickly, and we should start seeing some of that stop. I will tell you that we've had a camera on the site in the past, so that's been one indicator for us when somebody was there. And it actually assisted us in resolving a case where a group of kids from a different community came over to the high school and were trying to break in the door and actually damaged it enough that we couldn't get in. And the door is a $2,500 door. And so we were able to go back to the video and actually have the parents pay to fix that. So, I have no doubt we'll probably put another camera up on that. So we've taken it down and moved it to another site in town. I have no doubt that either us or Terracon will have a camera up on the site while we're working on it. But please call. And I'll have that conversation with our police department.
I mean, it hasn't been like in the last year, but
Yeah.
in previous years.
Yeah. No, we don't want you to stop calling. I want to know, because I want to make sure nobody gets hurt. And that's our biggest concern.
Well, when you talk about people not getting hurt, one of the biggest concerns is Dunbar goes downhill, hits a step, then it goes to Henry, which is even steeper. And we have a lot of people in the neighborhood who are walking dogs or just going out for a walk. And if you went up to that stairway right now, you'd find that the middle of it, about 12 inches or less, that you could actually walk on. The rest is filled with debris. The steps, when you start going down from the sidewalk, all of the brush, which is Asian bush honeysuckle, it has completely overtaken that area that you were showing where the power plant was to the retainer wall adjacent to Henry. That overgrows to where you have to stoop down underneath that. Then when you get down to the bridge, there's all of the gravel from the concrete that continues to fall off of the Henry Bridge. So now you're rolling on gravel on a sidewalk that's very steep. Once you get to that, you get to the driveway of that 4-unit apartment that has a gravel driveway that every time that it rains, that gravel washes out into the sidewalk and the street. And their retainer wall is overgrown with brush, with 4 trash cans sitting out there. So you're constantly, from the time that I leave my house at Belmere and Dunbar and walk on the city sidewalk, it's an obstacle course to keep your balance because of trash, debris, and things that shouldn't be there. And when I talked with, Brandon did a real good job of talking with the people at that apartment to get those, because of that retainer wall, when they said 4 trash cans there on a 3-foot wide sidewalk, plus the gravel that's already washed down, there's not much room. Got school kids that were, before they did the work. In other words, there's a lot of traffic that goes down through there. He was able to get them to move their trash cans up, and that lasted for about 2 months, and then 1 trash can came, then another one did, and now they've all been back out there forever. And it seems like, I understand that you want to help, and I want to be a part of a neighborhood that we can all cooperate, but I don't want to have to constantly be calling over the same things over and over. The mowing is another one. It's the same. Why would it be that if anybody in the neighborhood let the grass grow that high?
I understand.
Do you? I mean,
I do.
I just see that as there are things, well, we boarded up there have been tremendous improvements compared to what it was prior to you taking over. And on the other hand, in those 7 years that have passed, the things that could have been easily mowed, like where all of that brush is from on the Henry side going up to the power plant, where that could have been a clean area, an easily maintained area, is now just something that continues to spread more Asian bush invasive
stuff. Okay.
all the way down the hill and on both sides of Dunbar, that slope that goes down to Kansas City Avenue. You know, when you're coming up from the bridge that goes over Henry, it starts right there with Asian bush honeysuckle. That house, we've had to have them cut it back out of their chain link fence once, which that took a while to get. Still needs to be done. You can't see the house because of all of the invasive bush. Then you go to the lot north of that, and all the way down that hillside has been taken over by Asian bush honeysuckle, just like coming down when you come Henry and Dunbar, and then you go up the hill towards Job Court, that hillside. So it's kind of like there are some things. This is the front door of your downtown, Melinda. I mean, there's two ways to get there from the north, and then you can come down Henry. And why is it that it seems like that front door, you don't want to take as good a care of it as you would expect me to take care of my front door?
My only excuse, and it's an excuse, is we are mowing hundreds and hundreds of acres in our community, and we used to be able to do that a little easier when we were able to use the prisoners, the prisoner program, but that program has since stopped. That coupled with not being able to find mowers, individuals who wanted to mow all summer, that has been our biggest issue. But I will work on this one. And I'm going to go ahead and start having some conversations about what we have to do to get some of the tree brush cleaned up. The trash we can work on. The trash we can do pretty quickly. And so I will work on that. Cans? Yeah, I made a note. We're going to ask about the trash cans. They need to be taken off the sidewalks.
Then on the other side of the street, there's two trash cans that sit there, and he sets them on the platform for your storm sewer. They've blown over, and the storm sewer has been filled with trash, residential trash, and nobody, I mean, the city drives by there. You've got city employees that drive up Henry Hill. Somebody notices that, but nothing ever gets done.
So we have a leadership team meeting that happens every Monday at 1:30. That is all of the department heads. I will bring this up at tomorrow's meeting, and we will start working on a plan. And I'll have that conversation with leadership so that we can start working on that, because it is not fair for you to have to dodge all of that. And if there's something that we need to be doing, then we need to get it taken care of.
I live in Excelsior Springs. I want to be proud. If it is the front door, don't you think that it would be nice when I invite people over that I could show something off instead of, I think you get my point.
I do. And I ask for you to be a little patient with me, because we are without a code officer right now. So if you know of anybody who needs a position, who would like to work for a city as a code officer, we have an opening. But we are working on that. I've got one staff member who's transitioning over just to help us temporarily on that. And I will visit with her Monday morning about that, so we can start working on that. Because it sounds like if Brandon had worked on it, we have case file on it, so we can work on it from that perspective. And we have phone numbers of who to call. What else? Yes, ma'am.
The spray paint on the back of the school. When I brought it up before, they told me they didn't want to do anything with it because they didn't want to give anybody a clean slate. I mean, if somebody wrote "fuck the police" on a sign and put in their yard or something, you wouldn't want to see that.
Well, and I apologize. I have not driven in the site since we tore the power plant down.
Well, every time I walk to my garage, I see this.
Okay. Well, that we can work on right away.
I would be more than happy to volunteer. We used to do the cleanup, the city cleanup days. We did it with Girl Scout for years. I would be more than happy to help if we had a cleanup day around the school.
Okay. Let me check and see what we need to do, because we don't want to necessarily paint on brick.
No,
and
I
we may need to use some very special cleaners. So let me check with let me go ahead and check with our Public Works Department on what they have that can help us with that.
I mean,
thank you. I did not know that was there.
Yeah, there's multiple things all painted across the back.
Okay.
But yeah, if you could get a day set aside to do some volunteer work to try to clean up the sidewalks.
Actually, it's coming up April 20th. It was Earth Day, and I know in that particular area there's usually several teams. It's more on the trash pickup, not necessarily addressing the spray paint issue.
Well, there's
coming
lots
up in
of
just
issues
a few
that
weeks.
couldn't be.
We'll ask our Parks Department if they can make this as one of their cleanup spaces. So I know they go down around Sunnyside, but if they can come over this direction. we'll see if we can't get that. Maybe that is one of our sites this year.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Other comments? Other things you might want to see in the site? I mean, if it was your dream and you were to walk out every morning, what do you want to see as your neighbor?
Oh, could I?
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned it. I
I want to know. I asked because I want to know.
You already said it earlier. You said you've had different people that have come up with all of these things that they want to do, and you said, but what we look at, aside from the neighborhood there, that this was a community place, and because the city owned it, they want it to continue to be something that enhances the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we would come to the meetings before, it was always, well, what kind of businesses and what kind of this and what kind, and there's plenty of space for businesses right now in Excelsior Springs from one end to the other, vacant space to have just about any kind of business, and all of the zoning exists for that and would be encouraged.
Right.
So I don't see it as being a commercial spot. I'm along the lines of what you had talked about. In other words, I just thought, look, what the school did originally and what it did later was it brought the community together. So that should be, to me, if you were going to have a focus of where are we going to go, what do I want to see or what do you want to see coming out. So I just put some things down and I said, you know, it's got an auditorium, it's got a stage, it'd be good for lecture, seminar, entertainment, celebration, reunion. It's got a kitchen area, it could have a community kitchen, it could teach cooking, it could be Clay County Health approved to where people could pay to come in if there's going to be a bake sale or they want to go to some farmer's market with their product. This would be a place to where they could prep all of that. A high school coffee shop could exist in there, a bakery, pop-up cafes that maybe they're not ready for a place down there and we're tired of seeing the food trucks out here. Maybe they could have a pop-up cafe in there. Private rental, parties, nonprofit organization, meeting space. A lot of groups that doesn't matter whether it's AA, NA, grieving, divorce, all kinds of groups that need very, very reasonable, if not free space to meet, to where it's not in a building like a library where they can rent a room, that if they have posters or different things that they want to set up, that wouldn't be a problem because there's enough room for that. Happens up in Cameron at their Goodman School. If you ever have an opportunity, it'd be a good place to go to see how a community can reuse school.
Do you know who owns the Cameron Goodman School?
I would say that the city has a part in it, but I don't know that for sure.
I can check on their person.
Also, homeschool groups, that would be another opportunity for Chamber of Commerce could run different events out of there. As creative as they are, and a space that is available to them for different events that they could host, fundraisers. It could be, if you've got a kitchen, then you've got access to things like fundraisers, chili cook-offs, all of those things that you can't have downtown or outside, but you could have there as a daily event. Mental health, city-sponsored youth events, meeting, counseling, low-income daycare, community garden, that space that I talked about from Henry, if you would clean that out and make it available either to the garden club or to different individuals to have urban garden, or you could set up beehives, but it's about an acre of space that would be available. You've got water there at the school, so it wouldn't be too much of a problem. You could also invite the farmer's market to set up in that area. Art exhibitions, rotating exhibits. I know that the museum down here has got way more stuff than they can ever exhibit in there. But between them and the library, there could be rotating exhibits, community issues, a place where people could meet, whether it's with the city or not, to talk about different things, campaigns, politics, all of those things that planning discussions, private tutoring, music lessons. If you have private music lessons, a lot of times the teachers instead of doing that in their home, it's easier for them to have a space, and then the students come, and then with the auditorium that you've got with recitals or even group, a lot of the music teachers like to take all of their students once a month and then have a group practice where everybody can get together. And that would require the city to commit not only in getting grants for removing things, but it would require the city to say, we own this, and yes, we have a community center, and the community center has its functions. But all of these things are in addition to that. If we talk about the growth that Excelsior seems to be having, then in our planning, when it talks about, you know, well, what's the overall plan, the master plan of the city, it seems like you've got a centerpiece there that you could spin out a whole lot of things that wouldn't otherwise be available, but it would take the city to have, instead of the attitude of a realtor with property to sell or to lease, but it would take a change in attitude where the city says, we want to provide community, and we have a space already existing. We don't have to clear land. This could be done on a daily basis, so you don't have the overnight issues as far as the parking and the traffic. There would be times where there would be more traffic than others, and I would expect that anything that is done with that, that you would correct the ingress and egress issues that
We've already talked about
exist.
those, yes.
I mean, it has to be.
Yeah.
You have to upgrade the sewer. You have to upgrade the water. That's what cities do.
Well, you brought up something that's really important. First off, thank you for giving it so much thought. You've clearly given it a lot of thought, and we appreciate that. We are in the process, we've just started the process of updating our 2009 comprehensive plan. And that plan is the guide for a community for the next 15 years, 20 years. It says this is what we're going to do in our community, and we're going to be thoughtful about how we do it, and we're going to think about what it's supposed to look like. And as citizens, that's led by you. So we will be inviting individuals to participate. You'll see us post up that we're having these meetings. I'd encourage you to come and talk about that. We've not identified Wyman as one particular site to talk about, but we will talk about that neighborhood. And so it's a great time to be able to say these things. And you need to say them again, not just to me or to the council members who are here or staff that's present, but just I think it's a great conversation to have. I think it's very beneficial. So thank you very much. Other thoughts? Housing? Do you like it as an idea for housing?
When it was proposed to put condos in there, I didn't have any, that was not like the worst idea that they thought of. I personally wouldn't want to see low-income couples.
So if it were market rate housing, is that something that's, and it were contained inside the school, is that something that would be well received in the community or in the neighborhood?
What is market rate?
You don't have any kind of a subsidy and you're paying what the going rate is for rents. Okay.
They also proposed it like forever and at one time, and that was, we were all like, oh no.
Yeah. Understand that. It's in the middle of a neighborhood. Yes, sir.
There are apartments in Jacksonville, Illinois, called school apartments that have been there for a number of years, and they're on a historical street. I think it's State Street. They're beautiful apartments. At one time, about 8 years ago, I was considering buying the Wyman. The architect who owned it at the time, and I don't know who that was, but at that time, the pasta company was going through a transition, and I had to hit the road for jobs. I'm an engineer. So I think it's a great idea. You could do mixed use. I think the gentleman mentioned the auditorium. I've been in it. It's a beautiful school. The views of the city are absolutely stunning.
They are.
You can even add a pit house to it. So it could even be mixed use housing. But it's a beautiful area, and unfortunately I've come back to find they tore down the smokestack, and I understand that.
Wonderful, thank you. And don't forget to sign in if you've not signed in yet on the clipboard, because we do want to capture everybody's information. And those of you that are here this evening, as we move forward on the project, we'll use your emails to keep you up to speed on what's going on in the project, just so you know what we're working on and what we're doing. And if you see something that doesn't make sense to you, call us, because it could be that we're not aware of it and we need to become aware of it. And if the sidewalks continue to be a problem, call us and let us know that. What other things would you like to see there? Or in your neighborhood as a whole?
I would like to see all the trash cans off the sidewalks. Like, I've contacted Courtney before about when Lewis was still ongoing, and these kids are having to walk from the railroad tracks wherever and come down by Sunnyside. You cannot walk on the sidewalk.
Okay.
Because the trash cans all the way down through there. And you just can't safely, in my opinion, walk. You have to step out the street and go around them.
Part of what makes our community so amazing is the topography, and part of what makes our community the most challenging is the topography, because those, in some cases, there's just simply no other place to put a trash can.
Well, they can be neatly put away when
Yes.
they're not using
Yes.
them, and they don't. They
Yeah.
just lay over on the sidewalks.
And we need to show that we're proud of our community, and one way that you do that is to take care of your own property and to take care of where you live. And there's an individual in town that I happen to know who owns some property in our downtown, and if she sees it tipped over, she's just going to stop her vehicle, get out, and go fix it, because she believes strongly enough in that it needs to look better.
Well, I have personally walked down through there.
And done that as well?
The retaining wall.
Thank you. Thank you.
They, the next week they're right back out wherever they want to be. And
So I will visit with our neighborhood specialist about perhaps it's a postcard or a door hanger in that neighborhood, just asking for that.
This won't be gone forever. When the kids are coming back.
That's right. That's right.
One thing that I hear repeatedly have for quite some time is, boy, that is a great view of downtown Excelsior. It is. We've got a great view from our back deck. But now when you look at all the property right in front of it,
Down the hill. Or,
right in front of
Oh.
Wyman.
oh. Yeah.
So you can have the best view of downtown Excelsior all you want, but if you've got the view that we do on Dunbar, then it's going to be kind of hard to sell it.
And I know that we are working on one issue that's right there that we're working with animal control on. So I do know that we're working on at least one of those issues. Other thoughts, comments, concerns? So you may see Terracon vehicles on site. I happen to drive a small white HRV, so you might see it up there. You will see it up there Monday or later today. But if you see something and you're unsure of it, if it's during the 7:30 to 4:30 time frame, community development is open. You can always call us. If it's after hours, you can call through the non-emergency line. If you think it's a danger, you can call 911. And those are your options. And the police department has my phone number, so they know how to get a hold of me if it's an issue that I need to take care of. More than happy to do that. And just would encourage you to continue to be the eyes for that building, because it is a great building, and it does have some of the most beautiful views in this town when you're standing in it looking out. Not right now, because there's wood all over the windows. But when it is restored, if it gets restored, it's going to be an amazing site, and it will be something that we will be proud of. And our commitment to you is to continue working to move towards that direction. And keep us honest on it, and call us. That's what we're here for. Yes, sir.
Melinda, are there barriers from vehicle traffic to get in and out of that? It wouldn't solve the pedestrian issue, but if you have folks coming in and out of there with vehicles and trucks.
I believe we'd put a chain up over one of the entries but I don't know
Maybe
that
some
they are
concrete
there yet.
barriers or something
Yeah.
that would
The-
at least cut down on some of that
Yeah,
traffic.
the problem we run into is then we can't get the mowers in, which is one of the issues that we've run into. And I want to say that might be the reason we didn't do the barricades there. But I'll double check that. We'll talk about that Monday.
The other thing is getting the police in there when you do have somebody out, because they always need to go.
They got to
that
get all the way
side.
in. Yeah.
And they need to come in from both sides because the kids are running. So it's kind of like,
You've seen that.
oh yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, it's a,
Yeah.
Yeah, with the pedestrian traffic, it wouldn't be a solve, but I'm just thinking of
There will
vehicle
be
traffic that creates issues.
there'll be a lot more activity there, and I think that alone hopefully will help to curb some of the individuals that are going there for unpleasant reasons. But, you know, if you see it, please call it in. And I will have that conversation with the police department. Any other comments? Anything else you'd like to see in your neighborhood that we're not thinking about?
I'm still going to come back to where, you know, you had talked earlier about the topography of Excelsior Springs, and Park and Rec has done an excellent job. It used to be when you went down the fishing river, just down from City Hall here, you could not see the fishing river because of all of the Asian bush honeysuckle, that you couldn't see it. And they have cleared all of that out to where you can walk and you can actually see that. The problem, and what I'm afraid of, is that all of Siloam, all of that, right now, if you would take a walk along those trails and take a look at the bush honeysuckle and see what it's doing, we're going to lose our timber, and we're losing it up Kansas City Avenue. I've taken in my backyard and cleared off a couple of lots, and then the city owns a lot, 2 lots up from me, and I got permission to go in and take out a lot of the bush honeysuckle there, and the Winter Creek Charlie that just is all over these hillsides. And I know that when I had talked with the park, that they said, you know, we just can't afford the chemical, it gets expensive. And I'm thinking, yeah, but we have got a generation of kids that are going to grow up. And it doesn't matter if you go to, you know, the park or the lake. Doesn't matter. It's taken over everywhere, and we're losing all of our native timber because when it comes in, it's so thick that it takes all of the nutrients out and it kills the existing trees.
I'm on the Clay County Parks Board. We have that conversation a lot because of their trail systems as well and what they're seeing too. So it's not, it's, as you are well aware, it's not just one community that's fighting that. But I will pass along your comment to Nate Williams at Parks Department about how well they've done. So we like to hear that.
And along that line, the Parks Department isn't stopping.
No,
I'm on that.
Yeah,
they are that board, and they're going. They do a little bit every year, you know, and they just can't get it all at once, unfortunately.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's a battle, and I don't know if we're winning or not.
You have to.
But we're not.
You know, we
losing,
have
so.
to because we're going to lose. And when we lose that, then what's going to happen, the mess that is created by losing the natural timberland and ecosystem, that's a disaster.
No, I understand.
You're going to have what you have right now as far as your issues with storm drainage and pollution that is going into the fishery. It's nothing compared to what would happen if we lost our timber.
I think the multiple issues, though, is not just the honeysuckle. Then you have Bradford pear, which Missouri's declared war on Bradford pear. You have the emerald ash borer. You have all these things that are going on that are a potential threat. And
but if you take a look over the years,
sides.
you'll see that the bush honeysuckle is choking out everything. And you can do it right now because the leaves are not on the tree. So everything that you see that is green and from 2 foot to 6 foot tall, that's going to get 16 foot tall. You won't be able to see the trees anymore. And the one thing that is good about it is that that is something that is there are groups that if you make it aware, make yourselves available to the public. These would be, the Boy Scouts, there's different organizations that could become involved in this, and it could even team together to where you could literally, it doesn't take that much to go through and clear an acre of Asian bush, because when it's small, you can just yank it out of the ground. When
you have to do something to kill the roots too. If you don't apply Tordon or something,
you pull it out, you've got the
yeah, if it's real small, but when it gets out like that, it's got a root system.
If you want to clear an acre, you just go by and slash the bark and put that Tordon. You don't have to spray all the foliage.
Right.
You just get it into that outer layer of the bark.
It'll take care of it. Another thing that the underbrush and a lot of our timber provides, and we've experienced this, is opportunities for homeless camps. And I know when we cleared off a portion of the hill up here at the end of Broadway, we found multiple camps that had been made. We cleaned it all out, and last summer some of it grew back up, and as soon as the leaves fell, there's another camp. We just pushed it back a little bit. So when we let the canopy, like a gentleman has done out on the west side, we remove what we're being troubled by.
Good point. So I want to be respectful of our time. I said we would be done by 5. It's 4:55. Any lasting, lingering things that you'd like to say? Anything that you'd like to comment on? My only request is make sure you've signed in. Part of the ERA grant is that we have to have a community plan for how we are letting our citizens know what's going on. This is just the first part of that. And so we will continue to keep you updated if you've signed in. And again, as you see us working on the comprehensive plan in our community, this is your opportunity to tell us what you'd like this community to look like over the next 15 to 20 years. We have started updating the implementation plan that's in the back of the 2009 comprehensive plan, and we will at some point release a story about that, because as we look at what we have accomplished, it is amazing. And you don't necessarily know it when it takes place over 15, 20 years, but it becomes so much more obvious when you are seeing it in written form. So we will be sharing that and sharing some of those successes and celebrating those, and then starting a real serious conversation about what comes next. And we'd like for all of you to be a part of that. And again, thank you for being here. We hold listening sessions on Sunday afternoons at 4 p.m. We do that because it allows people a time to maybe their weekend is coming to an end, perhaps they're not at work, and it's the one time that they can participate. So we offer those sessions then. I know that we have a pizza and planning event coming up on April 25th, possibly. And that will be the first session. It will be here in this room at 4 p.m. and it will be your opportunity. 28th. April 28th. So, thank you, Chantel. April 28th, and that is going to be your opportunity just to hear about that planning process with the comprehensive plan. So we would invite you to participate in that. And thank you for being here this evening. And again, don't forget to sign in if you've not signed in. Thank you very much. Ryan.